We'll shut that thing off so people can hear it.
All right. You get it, it's gonna get hot.
I know. Well, we're not gonna be here long.
No, it should be fairly quick.
We got a good moderator.
We'll call, we're here at 5:05. Let's introduce ourselves. Scott Ryder, Select Board.
Scott Morley, Select Board.
Matt Maxwell, Town Administrator.
Yes, sir. Chris Ryan, you down? Treasurer, State Planning Commission.
Dave Barlow, Treasurer.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Tyler Billingsley, East Engineering.
Thank you. Changes or additions to the agenda. I don't think we're going to have much to talk about under town policy updates. We're still working on the personnel policy, trying to get some guidance from VLCT, so you can cross that off. That'll be for next meeting.
I do have an update on that though.
David does have an update on that that he'll give us when we get to it. Public comment.
Oh, I wanted to add into other business. I wanted to just talk about.
Oh, right, yeah, we're gonna talk about
Allegiance.
the old truck. For public comment, I just want to mention that the delinquent tax account for the town of Coventry is at 0. So if anybody sees Kate,
Zero.
tell her good job. Yep, 0.
After
I don't know
all,
if it's ever been that way before, but
not in our lifetimes.
that's it's pretty impressive.
It's amazing for what we started with and
Yep.
where she's taken that through. So tax bills just went out today
Yes.
for new tax.
Yeah.
So
So
it's timely,
we're
right?
starting all over again, but still,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many other towns in Vermont can say that.
All years past.
Yep.
Wow.
So
I knew forgiving those people.
Without a tax sale.
Yeah.
without a tax sale,
No tax sales.
The threat of them, no.
yeah, we threatened one, but.
Yeah, well. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's, let Kate know she deserves all credit.
Yep.
Coming up next, we have the Casella tax dispute.
You never let me off the hook. Let me think about that, where we left that as a group.
You were gonna continue the negotiations, I think, talking with them, I think is where we left it.
So we did executive session on that, right?
Correct.
Just trying to get my brain around what was executive session there. So let me just recap it then, just quick. We had received a proposal from News VT around the tax dispute. We accepted that and talked about it and conferred with our attorney. We went into executive session and talked about the points of those issues, which still remain confidential at this point. We made decisions as a group to continue the dialogue in confidentiality with News. We sent it back to them without changing any of the real main frame of what they had proposed. And that was about a week ago. I made a phone call and I discussed the issue with Mr. Casella, which is what we had decided that I would do, and let him know that the board had done some work and were sending back some information for him to consider and add or adjust. And that he appreciated that. We had a nice discussion. He was going to let his folks know that that was coming. I spoke with our attorney who did that work for us, and to date, that's where it's at. I have not heard back. I did discuss with Brian this morning to make sure I didn't miss it somewhere, but busy schedules, I guess. So that's where we're at.
Great. Thanks, Scott.
You'll reach back out and maybe you'll have some for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll plan, today's Wednesday. Are we meeting next week?
No.
No. So I will definitely,
Should we?
where are we at for a
I'm
month?
actually- I
Are
don't wanna
we?
be here. No, I wouldn't.
We don't, we have next week off and the following.
And then
Monday.
we'll be here the following. I don't think we'll need to, let it sit a few days and maybe the first part of the week I'll reach out to Brian again, and if I don't, yeah, we'll just leave it at that, I guess.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Chris,
You, with Casella, are you dealing with John?
Yes,
When is the, when is the resolution or the proposal gonna be public record?
it would be public record if the town and news were to agree and settle the dispute. That would then settle the dispute at the court level. And once all parties have signed, that would become public record, I believe.
Can you, without violating confidentiality, explain the basic disagreement?
I think so, can I?
yeah, I mean, it's already been in the paper several times.
Yeah.
I think so.
Common sense.
If I get in trouble, can we blame you somehow?
If you get in trouble, I will say I got you in trouble.
I'm kidding.
And I will put a notch on my check.
Well, let me try to sum it up. I've become a select board member again this year, so I wasn't here for the beginning of this process, but the result was that there was a town-wide reassessment of all properties. And the assessment of the landfill was, what's the right term, guys? Contested. I don't know the right legal term. They challenged it, they grieved it, they ended up with the Board of Civil Authority. And then they have gone beyond that. And they have, are now asking for that, or it's now in court, in Superior Court, to challenge the assessed value of that property. That's sort of it in a nutshell. And so the town had discussed and mediated over the last year, right? About a
Yeah.
year, entered into mediation that failed. And then obviously that went to court. Once we were at court, I was new on the board again, as was Dan. We discussed it again and said, well, let the new, fresh eyes maybe have a new look and a discussion. And that's what we did. And it potentially is working for a resolution, which would then, potentially keep us out of the court.
Just, I'm a little foggy on this. It's been a while since I held town office. When you go beyond the Board of Civil Authority, do you go to the Environmental Division of Superior Court, or is just Caledonia, Orleans County?
It's in Orleans County.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have Coventry Station Road. Tyler's here. Take it away, Tyler.
Okay.
got-
I sent you guys a couple. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I sent you guys a few things to kind of mull over, just to take a look at, just to see some progress prints, a couple cost estimates. I just wanted to kind of just chat through your thoughts a little bit on where you guys are thinking, if you're looking to go down the FEMA route for some of the bigger areas that settled out, if you wanted to stay the course with what we're doing, if you wanted to try to do some permanent repairs this year to brace up for winter, or if you wanted to push everything to next year. I kind of just wanted to put it on the table and kind of, you guys know your town best and your roads best. And a lot of other towns I'm working for right now are kind of going through with the FEMA process and doing some, repairs this year, kind of at the end of the year, obviously, with hopes of FEMA reimbursement. I'm doing a bridge in Irisburg and some stuff in Worcester. So I know that FEMA was kind of on your guys' radar because obviously that site settled out, quite significantly after the week or two of rain we had there. So I've got, as a repair in front of you, I've kind of picked off the two spots that settled them during the rain events. The whole section is really not great. I stationed it from 0 to 1800. There's kind of two 500-foot sections that are obviously the worst if you drive it. One being the dip, and then the second one is the kind of inside corner at the River Road intersection. So combined about 1,000 feet, so roughly half of kind of the section that we were looking at to begin with. By far the worst section. The other sections aren't awful, but they are starting to show similar cracking to, the worst section. So probably a matter of time on the other sections. I don't think it's going to be as catastrophic or drastic as, losing a foot a day or something as the dip. So I just wanted to I hadn't chatted with you guys in a month or so and just wanted to, I guess, catch up and just pick your brains on what you guys are thinking. Could all that make sense, more or less?
Made sense to me, Matt. I think you scared Matt. He's run out of the room.
I have that effect on people.
Yeah. Okay. Here he is, Matt. So I guess for me, when this sort of catastrophe happened a few months ago, it became a larger issue than normal for us because it's new pavement. If it had been a gravel road still, we would have dumped a lot of gravel in there and we would have, thought it was just a real muddy year. So, but
right.
with the hard surface, it makes a whole different kind of conversation. And
Right.
so we began with another engineering firm. We ended up with you. So we've heard from different thoughts on it a little bit. Back then, when we were having those discussions, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but we were talking about before FEMA, I almost think, before we were even dealing with FEMA, we were dealing with the problem.
Yes.
And I was asking some questions about educate me up on what's this going to cost us? What sort of V-Trans money is there? Is there not any for this scope of a project? Now we got the added wrinkle of FEMA potential on there. Potentially. You've had some of those discussions.
Yes.
And
Phil and I have.
And it doesn't look promising.
It does not. No.
So
doesn't mean it won't. But I mean, we're gonna submit some stuff.
Yeah.
Whether they,
I just instinctually think that, in all reality, this was a pre-existing condition. Obviously, the year made it worse with what we dealt with environmentally, but the issue's been there for probably decades, to tell you the truth. It's just
at least. Yeah. And I've had that before on some FEMA projects in the past where it gets into a gray zone where, sometimes it's black and white. There was a bridge there, it was fine, now it's washed away. And there you go with FEMA. Other times I've had it where, it's a little bit like what you guys have, where it's we're already working on the design before it even started raining in July. Right. So you knew there was an issue there. It just got exacerbated by the flooding. I have had towns get surprisingly favorable FEMA results from that. Albany had a big box a couple years ago from the Halloween flood that I thought no way would FEMA fund, and they did. And so we went through with the project. So, it's FEMA. They're unpredictable, I'd say, based on my experience. It depends who you get, what they see when they're on site, if they're having a good day or a bad day. It just, they're all over the map. So a lot of towns that I'm working with are just starting to get kind of the FEMA boots on the ground to do site assessments on slides and bridges and culverts and stuff. Irisburg had theirs today. So if you guys, have you guys had one yet? Like a public assistance person come put boots on the ground and come look at it in person?
I don't know if they've specifically looked at Coventry Station. We've had FEMA representatives here in town looking at stuff. I'm not sure. I'd have to check with our emergency management guy if they actually went out to Coventry Station Road. They went
Okay.
they went to a bunch of sites in town. Whether that was one of them, I don't know. But our road guys have they've taken a lot of pictures and kept very good records of what they've done to it.
So for me, I think I would want to, this is a $1 million project.
At least, yeah.
And so I'm not gonna raise my hand, to spend $1 million. So I would like to see somehow, Matt, that we, options here. Options, FEMA, worst case scenario says no, what does that mean? What would or wouldn't be acceptable to the state, and what's the matching funds on that? What's the process for that?
Right.
Well, I don't think we've done that.
Well, we've asked the questions, we just haven't gotten the answers
So before,
because I don't think they know. Because they haven't looked at it or anything like that.
so now we've gotten this deep, right? So we've now got an engineer, professional scope of work, some drafting being completed, and a professional sitting with us tonight who can help talk through the scenario with us, with the state, I think is where we should be at, don't you? And find out what our liabilities may or may not be, and whatever the route potentially we end up on. I don't want to get us so far down a road,
I think we have enough information at this point. I think we probably should take this information
Yeah,
and exactly what you're saying, get our options of who's gonna help pay for this.
Yeah.
If anybody, and then figure it out from there. I mean, obviously, we just dumped $35,000 worth of stones and rocks over the hill, and it seems to be holding in place
that's what we've spent there,
for now.
35,000.
And seems to be holding for now. It's not a fix.
It's not a fix.
It's not a fix, but it's holding.
They did a good job kind of band-aiding it. I think, talking through with how they did it, they did exactly what I would have done, just to get it, passable, open, and reasonably stable. I think if it stays dry, it's going to be fine. I think you get another big gully washer, mud season's going to be a tough one out there, I think, but they did a great job doing what they could in short time with $35,000. It's a really good, short-term fix. There isn't a lot of, I think we talked about this before, but there's not a lot of state funding, grants and that kind of thing they have a bunch for bridges, culverts, paving, but not, and they all kind of max out at, $100,000 or $200,000. They don't have any kind of big ticket landslide road rebuild grants, at least not that I'm aware of. So you could probably apply a couple of the, class 2 paving grants to help it sting less, get 200,000 out of it. But that still leaves you a long way to go to probably what the price tag will be to do a long-term permanent fix. FEMA is a good option if you can get it for the bigger ticket projects like this. So if we can push, it's got to kind of come from you guys. I can give you the backup documentation and the technical side, but the push kind of has to come from the town to FEMA. They won't listen to me pushing on them. So if we can push them a little bit to get, to make sure we had an inspector out there to review the site, review the pictures, review what you guys have done to date, and then cross our fingers that they say, yes, this was, not a great road before, but the slide caused it to be, way worse. And here we are now with it being passable, but barely. And, sometimes they'll fund part of it. They'll not pony up $1 million, but they'll say, hey, we don't think it was $1 million of, based on the pre-existing, but there are 2 sections that, clearly from pictures, slid catastrophically during that flood event. We'll pay for, I'm hoping, it's kind of optimistic, but what I had on the paper there, 2 500-foot sections where the slide really dropped out. So you kind of have FEMA says, go pound sand. You guys are gonna have to figure it out. FEMA pays for all of it, unlikely, but possible, or their share of it, 75%, or something in the middle, which is possible also. So I think that FEMA push is probably your best option in terms of what you want to spend out of pocket.
So Matt, do you have a contact that you can,
Bill does.
okay, so I think that becomes like a priority, right, in the next number of days to try to get that contact and that person here in town, or get at least some sort of acknowledgement or agreement for that to happen.
And you can use my documentation as backup, saying, hey, here's what the engineer came up with for these slide areas. Here's his cost estimate. Here's his current plans. They're gonna be finalized before you put a shovel in the ground, but you can kind of use that as you're not just shooting from the hip. You've got some backup, ink on paper showing something realistic. And I think that might carry some weight. And like I said, if you get the right inspector out there on the right day, they could write it up. So it all depends on how they write it up too. So you kind of have to slow play it a little bit potentially. If you guys are comfortable with the Band-Aid that's there now, you could slow play it and make sure we kind of chase down the FEMA channel as best we can. And then once we get something more definitive from FEMA, decide which way to go. The only problem with FEMA is they always give you the line, it's your town road. You need to do with it what you would do if we weren't here to fund it. So they make towns kind of take a leap of faith, even when they write it up, to spend the money to get reimbursed later. But they usually give you very good indicators along the way saying, no way, or, you're on the right track. They don't guarantee it, but they kind of give you some good indicators, the way they write it up, the way their email tones are, their scope of work they write in the damage assessment. You can kind of read the writing on the wall. And for example, after the Halloween storm, I think I helped out 5 or 6 towns and probably a couple projects in each town, and all of them got funded the full FEMA amount, except for one, which they shorted them, I think, $20,000. So it wasn't a big, they funded 80% of it instead of 100% of it. So it didn't move the needle much, and it still helped out the town.
But I hear you saying it's typically always a reimbursable, or it's always a reimbursable.
The way the FEMA process works is you pay the money out of pocket. They reimburse you through the state. So the FEMA funds 75%. If everything lines up and everyone agrees, they fund 75% of the project, the eligible costs. The state chips in a share, which varies by town, depending on if you guys have a hazard mitigation plan, current codes and standards, all that stuff. But usually your share ends up being 7 to 17%, roughly. So you're in that kind of, 10% for argument's sake on $1 million. You guys be on the hook for 100,000.
Okay.
I mean, I try to fix.
I think that's where we should be at then for right now, Matt. You and emergency coordinator get together, and sooner than later.
Get some answers. We'll get a feel, and then we can.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out.
Yes, Chris.
Can you kind of explain what you're talking about? I'm assuming this is,
I'll do that for you later, not right now. It's too hot here, it'll take too long. You call me sometime, call me tomorrow morning, I'll give you the whole thing. Okay, 150 Main Street.
Oh yeah, that's here, right?
Yep.
Okay, 150 Main Street, that. There's a few issues. So the issues are, I've been hearing a number of folks, town officials typically, but others also. Having some concerns about the folks using the parking lot, the new parking lot. Potentially unregistered vehicles, potentially letting them sit there for a long time, issues. And so a couple weeks ago when I came, I saw that, so I went out and I started having a conversation with the vehicle's owner. And that led me to the property owner, who is Mr. Cobb. He and I have had quite a good conversation about the whole thing. Again, had to be brought up to speed. So during that conversation, a couple things were mentioned. One, that when the town cut a tree, I think on our property, some of the bushes were destroyed on that property. So some of the tenants' blueberry bushes. And that the discussions at the time were that the town would replace them.
Never
So,
brought to my attention, never came
yeah, so
across the board. Okay.
that's the information.
Okay.
And so I said, if the town destroyed your blueberry bushes, we'll replace it. Pretty simple. So do you know anything about that one? The blueberry bushes?
My time.
Before your time too. We get a pass on this one. So,
Tree removal, I don't recall there being any blueberry bush issues,
yeah,
or where they might even have been.
yeah,
I'm not saying it didn't happen.
right.
No, and David tore the house down
Yeah.
and did the flattening and the filling and into where it's at, to where the stage it's at now.
Right.
Never did anyone, Jim Cobb or any landowner from that property ever come over and say, hey man, you guys, I know you did, it wasn't on purpose, but you killed our blueberry bushes, never mentioned. But again, blueberry bushes, fence, whatever keeps everybody happy. That's kind of, it's like, it's not like, so they want to trade parking junk cars.
So they like the blueberry bushes replaced. So I think we should just do that. 2 blueberry bushes, buy them 3, I don't know. And we take care of that. The fence was the next conversation that I really didn't know about. So the issue is that the town had talked about putting up a fence between the 2 properties for a number of different reasons, and he was good with that. But that it hasn't been done yet, and they would like to see a fence. So I said, well, that's a, a select board issue, so I'll bring it, we'll talk about it, I'll find out where we were at, what decisions were made or not made, and have a fence discussion.
So originally we did discuss finishing the parking lot with some, landscaping,
Right.
possibly stone wall, possibly lighting, fence, handicap access through that way, and we haven't got to it yet. But we could start possibly with a fence.
So was there a design discussion, fence design? And I asked him, and he didn't seem to know of one.
We had talked about having the planning commission and everybody coming up with like a design. What would we like to see this parking lot look like? And I mean, that's something we should develop, just kind of just like the plan we got here. Let's get a plan made of what we want it to look like. Probably the fence. The grade's pretty good, so I think if we put a fence in, it could go in first.
Yeah.
Without
the other work being done.
Without the other work being done, because obviously depending on what level we want to go, we can spend, again, 20,000 to 150,000 probably out in the parking lot. It's true.
Oh, sure,
Easily,
Mhm.
or nothing.
So
just by putting a fence along that line, doesn't keep their unregistered vehicles out of our parking lot, it keeps it so they don't see it.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. I'm kind of confused over the whole thing. I mean, for me, fences aren't always the most neighborly thing to do. So where were we at?
There was never a plan, there was just discussions.
Huh,
We were never.
never
really
got
anywhere.
beyond where we are right
Yeah,
now.
We just,
We talked
Yeah.
about,
we tore the place down and Dave made it a parking lot and that's really as far as we got.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some, brief discussions about what's lighting and a handicap access and maybe some benches, but then you wouldn't let us spend more money, so.
we said,
We had to shelve it.
yeah,
It's true. All right,
but if you'd like, I can get a few different design people.
I mean, fence can be anything, right? I mean, we could do a split rail fence and have the work crew build, or have our guys build it. We could do, hire Round Hill fence and spend, 100,000. And anything in between. It's like, it depends on what aesthetically we want. Is it the purpose of not seeing through? Is the purpose for just simply marking a boundary? It's like all those discussions. I thought maybe had been done, but if they haven't been done, then we probably should just take a step back. And
They haven't been done. I mean, my personal feeling would be to have a fence that you can't see through. That way, if cars are parking in there or leaving, this fall when it gets dark at, 4:30 and we're leaving here at 6 o'clock at night and 5 of us, start our cars if we were pointing that way and all of our lights shine right into their house. That would be,
yeah,
that would be not pleasant. If you live there, it wouldn't be pleasant. If there was a fence, they wouldn't see it.
so why don't we just ask the property owner to come in and sit down with us sometime and see what he's thinking,
Okay.
right? And so, just kind of build harmony on this thing and see where that he's at and they're at. In the meantime, I think the claim of the town having destroyed some bushes, we should just fix that.
Okay,
So whatever the fix to that is, Matt, do it.
Okay.
Talk with them and
Yep.
find out
Have
if,
them put a stake where they'd like them,
Yeah.
and we'll have someone come plant them and
Yep.
leave directions on how they should maintain them.
Okay,
take care of all that.
got it.
And like, obviously, if there's no fence, it's easier to plow.
Yeah.
It's easier, nobody has to trim around anything, you can just mow the stretch of grass,
Right,
but if. See what,
well, let's have him come
Yeah.
in and sit with us sometime and we'll talk about it like we are here and
Good.
make sure we're not doing something that's folks don't want.
All right, town policy update, David?
So I contacted the VLCT to get whatever their latest templates are for personnel policy. And got an unexpected response, which the response was, hey, we'd really like to have a phone call with one of your select board people about where we're at with personnel policy recommendations. And like, okay, great. What I would propose then is whoever would like, somebody who'd like or is willing to have a phone call with the VLCT person who does personnel policy. I can pass that off. That phone call would presumably result in us getting a template that we can then use to update our own policy.
So the policy that we have currently is pretty good. I mean, there's some issues and there's some things we need to add to it
Right, this is a bunch.
that we've been discussing. So you think maybe if we got the template, we would be capturing that language?
I think it would be helpful to see what their thinking is on municipal employees and the various bits of policy that we've been working on.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone through and drafted up some stuff the way things I'd like to see, but it doesn't make that really good thinking necessarily to put in our policy. I think it's just, it's a good piece of the puzzle to have, is what, we're paying for it already anyway, so might as well have that piece. And I'm just curious as to what their thinking is about, let's engage only with the select board, not with the employees, kind of. So there might be some important information that they pass to you that we're just not even thinking of.
Well, Tom,
I can do that one.
Okay,
Thanks.
I don't care one way or the other.
I'll do that. I do that
Use
enough.
the call.
Yeah. Just email me a number and contact person.
got it.
I have the policy, you emailed it to us, and.
Yeah, our policy is pretty
So
comprehensive.
it's pretty good. I mean, it's missing some Vermont public holidays that are,
Yeah.
it's just old, it's outdated. It's a little outdated.
It's a
It needs-
couple
it needs-
spell
it needs
checks,
updating,
it's
yeah.
a policy, it's some insurance stuff.
There's a lot of stuff that makes payroll hard to implement.
Oh, okay,
Now that we're doing time cards,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I see why we had it the way things were.
Yeah.
A couple years back. It's fine, but now we need a little bit more
Well, and
detail on certain.
can I
things.
actually scan that and email them to them what our current policy is too? So
They have already got it,
They already
they
have
have
it,
it,
they
yeah.
have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
but you can send it to them, but they have a copy of our current personal
Yeah.
policy. Okay,
all right.
Yeah, I'll do that.
okay, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, no problem.
David, you all set?
Sure. Okay.
And I'll
Thanks.
share the information with our employees and we'll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, other business?
Thank you, Dave.
Scott Breyer, you had a,
Yeah, I have one thing.
Okay.
So, here, I don't know if you have this. This was part of the original trade-in when we engaged with Allegiance Trucks. Okay, so this was this was in the original contract from them. We were trading in a 2015 International 7600 with the plow and the wing and the sanding dump body in as good a condition as inspected by us in October of 22. Unfortunately, the new truck didn't come in till end of June.
yeah.
It was supposed to
Pretty
be
much
here
July,
in
it's pretty
May,
much
but
July,
maybe
yeah.
July. So once this vehicle went back to them, they brought the new one, we dropped the truck off, we dropped off a check, and we were thinking possibly that everything was just hunky-dory. Well, in between the 9 months that went by or 8 months that went by of using this truck, along with our other dump truck caught on fire. So we were down to just one vehicle. So the maintenance really wasn't, at that point, we knew we were trading it. I think David Gallup decided to let some things go because we're getting a new one. And obviously we needed to use the truck because it was our only truck. So they gave these list of repairs, which one is $17,904, and another one that is $4,906. I reviewed these in length with Dan and explained to him that, he was getting a used vehicle and not a new one, and that I would bring it to the board and see what we would come up with that we would think would be fair. Also, he did mention that 8 out of the 10 tires were bald and they were all mismatched. And that's not in here. I think if we were to give them a $7,000 or $8,000 check and have this go away, they would probably do that. Or we don't do anything and have them deal with it through our town attorney.
So they have the truck.
They've had the truck for the same day we got the new one, 2 months probably, or 3 months, July. Yeah, July and August, right? They've had it for 2 months.
For 2 months.
So. We have the new truck,
New truck's ours, we own it, we paid for it.
we paid for it,
Done.
we wrote the check, we own it.
Right, and then at the same time,
They've got the
There was-
used truck,
there was no hesitation. They didn't do, and what they probably should have done, being a company like that, is they should have did an inspection when we dropped off the new truck.
so
I mean, when we dropped off the used truck, we drove away with a new
we
one.
drove away with a new one and we
It's-
gave them a check
Right, and no,
for the original agreement.
for this original agreement,
And so we've got a new truck, they've got the old truck, we wrote them a check, they gave us a receipt,
it's paid. We're
but
done.
now we're getting a bill.
These are estimates. Because no one at the time, I think possibly because they felt bad that it took an extra month to get the new truck or 6 weeks. They should have done an inspection on this.
Their estimates for the bill that's gonna be coming.
But we don't have it. These are just estimates. None of the repairs are done. Nothing's done. The truck's just sitting there. They haven't done anything with it. So the town can take the truck back. Pay them 40,000.
So the check we wrote didn't include the 40,000, wasn't minus $40,000 for the trade-in.
It
It was-
was, no, it was. They've given us the $40,000 allowance for the truck in good faith that the truck was. But he had mentioned prior to that, when it did go back for repair, that he noticed that the exhaust clamps were cracked. And it needed to be addressed, and he was told no. And by running it for a longer period of time with these cracked clamps, then it wears out the bellows, and then you get expensive bills if you wanted to do those types of repairs.
So,
That would be in this packet.
so we are. Consciously. I mean, we're knowledgeable that the reality is. The $40,000 that they had originally quoted us. Isn't fair, because it is 9 months later and there is a bunch of stuff wrong with the truck that wasn't at that time, so we kind of have to own that at some point.
Correct, and I
But
don't,
maybe not
and I don't feel it's $23,000.
$23,000.
No,
okay.
but I'm thinking $7,000 or $8,000, I could probably say, hey, either that or we could take the truck back and the town can sell it on its own, or we could whatever.
So you got a good, you guys have talked about this,
I've
you
talked
and
to
Dan,
Dan, yeah.
so you guys are in harmony.
We're in harmony. Well, kind of, he should be going through Matt, kind of, but, and explain to us, but, I worked with him when we were. The whole process of getting the new truck, and I talked.
So that number you're suggesting, the 7 or 8 or 9,000 or something like that, is a number you already talked about around the
I've kind of-
periphery with him?
Yes, and then, yes, light conversation. Cause I told him there's no way, we're not gonna spend $23,000.
Right,
It's just not happening, we'll take the truck back, it wouldn't make any sense.
yep.
I mean.
So what you're suggesting you go back, have a talk and see if you can iron
I
down
could iron down
a number that we can just write them a check.
Right, so if you
for
wanted to give, well.
Good business, a good business check.
Correct,
So why don't you do that and see what you can agree to,
okay,
and then bring that back to us and we'll all talk through it.
okay,
Cause I agree with you. I mean, that's just looking at what they
No.
are. I mean, that's a little excessive, but it kind of might have been some of our own fault. So I think the good.
I think
business-
$7,000 or $8,000 is probably our own fault.
Yeah.
If the clamps were done, then it wouldn't wear out the bellows, and then the
Right.
exhaust wouldn't be on its way out,
Maintenance stuff.
but. It's a 9-year-old truck, it doesn't need, you don't trade it in with a new $17,000 exhaust system either, you know what I mean?
Right.
That isn't something you do, so there's some room,
So why don't you do that?
alright,
Okay, so you're gonna talk to him and we'll put this as an agenda item
next week, and then we can.
next meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, put you on a hot seat.
Okay. Put me on the hot seat.
He keeps putting me on.
Thanks, Scott,
Okay, so
for this meeting. All right, approval minutes, you got a couple sets there. August 21st and August 28th.
Mhm.
did we get Chris's, did we get your driveway, lip fixed?
I don't see the big bit up there,
I think they did, said they did, yeah, said they went up there.
because what, you know,
Is it better?
I don't see that it is. Yeah, I can send you a picture. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see that.
What'd they do? You know,
Remember,
They did all the driveways up there according to Nathan.
yeah, I mean, did they put a load in there? I don't know what it looks like, so.
I'd have to ask them,
alright, so we'll revisit
I'd have
that.
to ask the road guys.
I mean, I don't get anything
Call
like
him
about
up.
it, but it, like I
Tell
said,
him
it's kind of a
fix-
list. And it's no fault of him, it's,
Fix
it
it
happens all
back.
the time.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, if there's an issue.
yeah, fix it better
uh,
with the blueberry bushes.
What?
You need a blueberry bush?
No blueberry bushes.
Blackberry.
Pick it on you.
Okay.
All right, so you go to the first one,
And
make a motion to accept the select board minutes of Monday, August 21, 2023 as submitted.
so move. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to accept the minutes of select board meeting, town of Coventry, Monday, August 28, 2023 as submitted.
So move. All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. You got your warrants?
I've already seen.
I have to, I looked
I'm ahead of you, buddy.
No, I got them in the email. And I spent an hour and I went through them.
Come on.
I did.
Chris, just give me a ring in the morning, I'll tell you all about the whole procedure. Yep.
Good. This one I did.
No, I didn't.
And this one.
Well, diesel fuel's expensive, 380, we paid 389. That's the new dog tags.
Yep.
Now we gotta get people to buy them.
We did get some dog tags. Just need everybody to register their dogs.
Seems like there was one, I wanted to ask Deb about, but I don't think there is.
Remember what was what?
Not there. Okay, make a motion to accept the warrants as submitted.
So move. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Deb, I can sign those checks now? Okay.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh my God.
You fixed it.
Okay, that's it.
I wouldn't know that.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
So move. All those in favor?
Aye.
Iron at 5:52. Great job.
You want to stop it, you don't leave it
No,
on.
you can leave off now.